One night, I was guiding a cargo freighter through rough waters in the Pacific Ocean. I was in the middle of nowhere, alone on this massive boat. Gigantic waves continuously crashed against the bow. Lightning struck the vessel, and all the lights on the deck went out. It was a moonless night, pitch black on the open ocean, when, through the lashing sheets of rain, I heard something. A woman, sobbing. It sounded as though it were coming from all around me, where I sat up high in the captain's cabin. But in the next lightning strike, I saw her, standing on top of the highest crate, right in front of me on the far end of the boat. She was wearing a flowy white dress that ended at the knee. Her legs weren't visible. She appeared to be floating. She had a mat of tangled black hair, and although she hung her head, it was parted over her face. Even as the sound of crying continued, her mouth was closed, her expression blank, and yet I knew it was coming from her. She held her arms out from her sides, and one of her hands was missing. The other dangled lifelessly, held on by one last bit of skin. The flash of light came to an abrupt end, and I lost sight of her. The sound of crying intensified and whirred around my head. At the next flash of light, she was inches from my face, howling in anguish, yet still expressionless. I begged her to leave me alone, asking her what she wanted, asking her if there was anything she would trade for my life. In the next 10 minutes, all noise gradually tapered to a halt. There was no light and no sound, no rain, no thunder, not even waves. About 500 meters before the bow of my ship was a blue flame, a will-o-wisp that danced in the air. It was my only source of light. It danced and twirled in place for a moment, then veered off to the right. It was mesmerizing, and I turned starboard to follow it. Drifting slowly over the dark water, I peered over the edge of the boat to look at it. It was becoming shallower. We were nearing a shoal. I heard a great mechanical scrape as the boat beached itself. The blue will-o-wisp that had been my guide disappeared. In the darkness, I felt my way to the ladder on the starboard side of the boat and climbed down onto the beach. The night was just as black here as on the open ocean. It must have been an uninhabited island. A green flame caught my attention as it appeared in the sky and descended down to greet me. It danced in the air for a moment, and I followed it across the beach and into a shallow jungle. Then back out to the beach again, where a woman's body lay upon jagged rocks. Where it remained, her skin was pale and bloated. Her eyes had been plucked. She was missing a hand, and it was clear she'd been picked over by buzzards. The will-o-wisp hovered over her, and I had some idea of what I ought to do. I returned to the shallow jungle and dug a hole as big as I could with my bare hands. Then I retrieved her body and buried her in that shallow grave. The green will-o-wisp spun up into the stratosphere and vanished. I couldn't see well enough to make it back to my ship, and I was exhausted already. I closed my eyes and waited for first light. When dawn broke, I realized I was being watched. A panther was sitting close by, 3 meters to the left of the grave I'd dug. I rose to my feet, then froze in place. When my panic subsided, I noticed something was off. The panther just sat there, like a cat, watching me. It didn't move but for a slight cock of its head, and behind its eyes I could see green flames burning. Hesitantly, I made my way back to my ship, which miraculously had righted itself in the water. As I swam back to it, a large presence made itself known in the water under me. A humpback whale breached the surface and lingered there to watch me with its right eye. Within it, I saw the green flame burning also. I thanked the Yurei and never saw her again.